Hello and welcome back to Dateline New Haven on WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio. Shout out to Davis Street School and Morris Sheridan School at the polling station, where in addition to greeting the huge flood of people voting, that was sarcastic, they're finding time to listen to us. Thanks for listening to us, folks. This segment, we were very proud to introduce into the WNH studio Erika Bogan, a recently retired member of the New Haven Fire Department. Thanks so much for coming in.
Absolutely. How are you?
Good. I'm going to ask you to get so close to the mic you can almost touch it because I didn't hear you there.
Okay.
Oh, good. All right.
Is it better?
Yeah,
I
Erika.
can even hear myself now. Okay.
Yep. So, Erika, you just retired from the New Haven Fire Department. How many years were you there?
I did. I actually started as a 911 dispatcher first. So between that and segueing over into fire, like 27 years.
27 years. So you started at 12 years old?
Hardly. I started around 27, 28.
So when did you graduate? When did you retire?
I retired July 7th of this year.
Okay. So how's that feel? Because, I imagine when you're a firefighter, like I know living next to one, you're on these weird schedules for 3 days. Your life is not your own.
Yeah.
And then
we
it
were
is.
3 on, 3 off. And retirement over the last month has felt incredibly surreal. Kind of like I'm on an extended vacation and I'm just going to go back to work any second. Oh, yeah. But I'm enjoying it so far.
What is that like, to have family? We were told before coming to the area you're going to be a grandmother. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm already a grandmother.
Oh, you're already a grandmother?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then how do you have that kind of family life when you have these weird 3-day on, 3-day off? It's not the same days every week in terms of who can drive you to school, who's going to be home for dinner.
Right. It was difficult in the beginning, going through the fire academy, when my kids were really, really young. They were like 8, 5, and 4. And you just make adjustments. You have, your village that helps, your mom, your grandmother. They take the school bus and, somehow it all just, gels and it works.
One thing I've noticed about people like yourself in public service is that you have a mission, a purpose when you have this job. It's not punching a clock because you're giving up a lot doing, besides exposing yourself to danger, and fire is going to be scary, right? Mm-hmm. You're also saying, I'm going to make a sacrifice in my life that's different from sacrifices other people made for higher purposes. Is that what drew you to the job?
I think primarily what drew me to the job was that I knew I wanted to do something in the health field, but I also knew that I didn't want to be at a fixed facility. So, the fire department, I was very fortunate to be able to be hired because it allowed me to be able to be out in the field, doing, medicals as an EMT and, fulfill both needs.
Are all firefighters EMTs?
Yes.
Okay.
All firefighters are either EMTs or one step higher as paramedics.
Okay. So we're talking to Erika Bogan, who just graduated after more than a quarter century.
I graduated?
Sorry, I keep saying that. Oh, my God, retired. Back to a somewhat normal life.
You're sending me back to high school.
Oh, my goodness. I would never do that to anybody, especially junior high. But let me take you back to the beginning, Erika. Did you grow up here in New Haven?
I did. I'm a very, very proud New Havener. I grew up all over the place. Orchard Street, graduated from Hill House High School.
So you did graduate?
I did. Many, many moons ago. Sheffield Avenue. So, greater New Haven at large, is my
And did
home.
you grow up thinking, you said health field. What did you grow up thinking you wanted to be?
I think I felt like I wanted to be some sort of doctor or maybe a pediatrician when I was in my high school years.
And where did that come from? I
think just the nurturing nature that I have and, the need to be caring and the need to, help. Mm-hmm. I think that was my biggest thing.
Did you know any firefighters?
Back then, no.
Were there many black female firefighters?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, I think probably when I came on, there were maybe 1 or 2. And, excuse me, I was fortunate enough to go through the academy with one.
So you were like the third?
Maybe like 4 or 5, at that point. And that was in 1997.
Okay. So first you were a 911 dispatcher. When did you start doing that?
I started that August of 1995.
Okay. And you went into that first again as a helping profession?
Exactly.
And that's a different kind of stress, right? That's kind of knowing that these fast calls are coming and someone's life is at stake if you get the right word out to people to save their lives. And you're also kind of boxed in that room. When I've been in that room, I kind of go crazy after 5 minutes. With all the consoles and the calls and
You get used to it. Once you get trained and you apply the training that, you've been taught, then, it's a breeze. But, excuse me, the stressful part is, just like you said, sitting there in that room and, receiving the calls and, some of them are frantic and, really real. And you're sitting there like, okay, hurry up and get there, hurry up and get there, hurry up and get there. That's the stressful part.
But how about dealing with the people who are calling who might not be in the frame of mind to give you the most efficient delivery of information?
Then you have to get creative.
Give me an example.
If somebody calls frantic, then I use my calming voice. Like, okay, tell me what's going on. I'm sending help, but I need to know, what sort of help I need to send you. So I need you to calm down and, tell me what's going on and tell me exactly where it's going on so I can get help to you as quickly as possible.
Erika, do you remember any particular incident, a moment from the 911 room before you moved on?
Yes.
Tell me.
It was cold. I want to say it was January, perhaps 1996. And all of a sudden we started getting like a huge influx of 911 calls. And as it turns out, there was a house fire out in Old Rockview, Brookside area in Westville.
Was that the time the police, the fire trucks couldn't get in? No.
I don't remember that.
That might have been earlier. That was 92.
But there were so many calls and they were so frantic. And as it turns out, there was a little girl that was trapped. And that is the absolute worst thing that, you'd never want to say to, the responders when, they're responding is that, there's reports of a little girl trapped. And,
why is it that you don't want to say that?
Well, because it just makes it so real. And I never wanted to hear it when I was a firefighter. And, to let them know is, great because, they have a heads up. But, just to hear all of the frantic calls from all of the people and, the mother and, she's screaming for her child. It was absolutely the most gut-wrenching experience, on that side of New Haven Fire that I have probably ever had.
And what happened with that fire? What did you do? How did you roll with it?
Well, we dispatched, everyone, per protocol. And I remember working with 2 other women and we all had children. And so it really hit home, in different ways. And, it was just, not good. At one point we were just like sitting there, like, you and I are sitting and we were just like staring at each other. And, then we got reports that, okay, our guys are there and, they recovered the child, but the child didn't make it. And, we were like literally fighting tears the rest of the shift. I mean, even now it's emotional.
I've talked to 911 workers about how they deal with events that don't end up well and how they process the trauma so they can come back in the next day and do their job. Is there anything you had to do to be able to steel yourself to return to the desk?
I think that back then you didn't really think about it. I think that there's much more attention on, emotional and mental health these days than there was back then.
Like then it was suck it up, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And, I've sought therapy for, to process things, that have happened. But back then it's like you're just in go mode. It's like, okay, take the call, send the right response, figure out this call, send who you need to send.
How about employee assistant programs, EAPs? I know that's sometimes a dirty word in fire and especially police that they can't get the rank and file to go because they feel like it's showing weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't really speak to my time in the 911 center, but I can say that on the fire side, that is absolutely 100% true. And it's sad, but, it is very, very true.
We're talking to Erika Bogan. Until last month, a firefighter in the city of New Haven, quarter century. So how did you make that switch from 911 dispatcher to firefighter, and when did you do that?
Okay, well, when I first started in August of 95 at the 911 center, everybody there, looked at me like my first week and they were like, well, how come you just didn't, try out to be a firefighter? And honestly, I didn't know, that it was possible.
Because you were young, or?
I guess. I don't know. I just thought to myself, I didn't know about it. I had no idea that I could do that. It's just not something that, was in my mind. I never thought about it. And so the next time the test came around, maybe like a year or so later, I took the test to see if I would get it, and I got it.
Just because everyone was saying you should be a firefighter?
Well, I just felt like doing 911, because 911 is actually the fire department first,
Mm-hmm.
and then they triage and figure out, where calls need to go.
And when you were back there, it was run by the fire department.
Yes.
Right? For police, went to police
Yes.
station.
Yeah, they're sort of integrated now. But when we were in the basement, the sub-basement at 200 Orange Street, all the 911 calls came directly to fire. And if we had to, forward them to the police, then, we would do that. But I think that working with the fire department in that capacity gave me sort of a bird's eye view and sort of almost like insider information. Like, okay, I see how they work. I see what they do.
Did you also
all
think
like
like
that.
I can do that? Too?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, okay, I think I can do this.
So you took a year in, you took the test, and when did you become a firefighter?
I became a firefighter April of 1998 or 99. 90, I think it was 99.
And so you said you were among the first black female firefighters ever.
Yes.
Were there many black firefighters?
At that point, not. I don't think so. I think that our ranks currently are way more diversified than they were, 20, 25 years ago, for sure.
And there's tradition in all the municipal fire departments and fire departments, right, of Irish and Italian-American firefighters, right, especially Irish. Am I wrong about that?
No, predominantly. Yeah.
And it was people who were in the trade and their profession, and their kids got kind of a clue how to get in by watching their parents, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are so many legacy kids, kids who, grew up watching their dads.
Which, of course, is, on one hand, a very good thing.
Yeah.
Because public service is noble. You want to pass it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can create barriers when you're trying to diversify a department, correct? Because they're going to do better
sometimes.
on a test if they grow up with it, right?
I don't necessarily know if they'll do better on a test. I just think that when it's ingrained in you from, watching your dad, or your mom or your grandfather or, whoever, you just sort of, you're like, okay, yeah, I want to do this. I really want to do this. And I think your drive and your determination is a little bit different than, someone who didn't grow up that way.
3/5 writes in, thanks for listening, buddy. He said, did you have the same problem like Brenda Berkman and other women firefighters? I guess that was where my next question was going. What was it like for you? Did you have barriers, or was it all, everyone was cool?
I think in the beginning, I was tested.
How were you tested? Give an example.
Oh, just by my coworkers, to see, they would like make jokes.
What would be an example? Unless you don't
Oh,
want
I
to say
can't
it.
remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember. And even if I did, I probably
So they
wouldn't repeat
they
any
test
of
you
it.
with jokes.
Yeah, with jokes or, just asking, questions, about your personal life to see, how much they could find out or, perhaps how much they could get away with, telling jokes. Or
Were you usually the only person of color in the firehouse and the only woman?
No, I was probably never the only person of color, but I'm sure that at some point I was definitely the only female on the shift. Yes.
And how does it work? Do you sleep at the firehouse?
Yes.
For 3 days?
No, we work 3 days on from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. and we're home at night.
Oh.
And then we're off for 3 whole days, unless we take overtime. And then we're back the next set of 3 days overnight from 6 p.m. until 8 a.m.
So that's when you sleep there?
Yeah, right.
And is that awkward, or is that...
No, actually, my experience being a female on the job is that it's all about how you carry yourself. Mm-hmm. If you carry yourself with professionalism and, it enables you to be able to, command respect.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've had coworkers, come up to me like, hey, E, I'm going to sleep, in my shorts tonight. Is that okay? I'm like, sure, it's no problem. It's all in how you carry yourself. And when you have mutual respect, for your coworkers, and that you're all there for a common goal, then, it's basically smooth sailing. They just
Is it bonding when you have your meals together and stuff?
Yes. Yes.
Or is it even more bonding when you face danger together?
I think they're both very bonding, but in different ways.
So can you tell me early on, in a way, you were tested and you got past the test and made a relationship with someone that you might not have? Or?
Ooh, we might have to come back to that.
Okay. Tell me about a moment you'll never forget from early. First of all, which firehouse were you assigned to?
When I graduated, I was assigned to Engine 17 on East Grand Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
A few years later, I was transferred to Engine 15 in Westville on Fountain Street.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I was transferred to Engine 11, Truck 2 in the Hill. From there, I was transferred to Engine 5 on Woodward Avenue, and I finished up my career at Engine 16 in Morris Cove.
Engine?
16.
So you've been all over.
Yeah, I basically did like half the world tour of the fire department.
So you must have really gotten to know the city that way.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And it's
an
interesting they
advantage.
didn't automatically assign you to Dixwell, even though, like, they don't do that based on race, right? Like sending you
No.
to Morris Cove, that's an area traditionally that was known as sort of majority white and not very tolerant of people of color. Though by the time you were assigned there, the demographics of that neighborhood kind of changed a lot.
Well, right now, I think I'd been there for 4 or 5 years, and I had literally no problems, at all with the neighborhood, no problems with shifts or anything like that. But we're in different times.
So
We're
tell
in
me
very
about
different
a
times.
fire you'll never forget from early on that kind of forged a sense of what this profession was in you.
I think my first fire was on Kenny Drive.
Where is that?
It's like off of Quinnipiac Avenue,
Uh-huh.
like Quinnipiac Barnes, over
Mhm.
there.
In the Heights?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not like on the other side of Foxton Boulevard.
Oh, okay. So Quinnipiac Meadows.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
they used to call that something else.
Yeah, somewhere in that area, like near Barnes,
Mhm.
Betsy Ross School or whatever school that
Mhm.
is over there.
Middletown.
And yeah, that was my very first fire, and it turned out to be a basement fire. And I was literally, pulling, dragging the hose because I'm on the pipe, which means that I'm responsible for being the first person in and controlling, the flow of water through the hose. And that you can't see anything. It's like daylight outside, but you can't see anything because the smoke is so thick and it's banking down, and you like literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. So I'm on my knees, dragging the hose, and all of a sudden my knees just dropped. And I'm holding on to the hose, and holding on to the hose was literally the only thing that kept me from falling into this basement.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, there's stairs. Okay, well, there's stairs here. So I just ended up like scooting down.
On your butt?
Yes, I scooted down the stairs on my butt, and I'm hitting the fire. And after that, when I got through that, I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I
You
can
can do
really,
this.
really do this.
What about, was there a fire you'll never forget in addition to your first one?
Yes, there was one on Winthrop Avenue where there were quite a few casualties.
When was that?
Oh, wow. This was like years and years ago. I couldn't even put
And
a
Winthrop
number.
obviously goes through many, many neighborhoods. So
Winthrop and
So when you were in the
Chapel.
Hill? Oh, at Chapel. Okay.
Yeah, Winthrop and Chapel. There was a house fire there that was like, really, really devastating for the families that lived there as a multifamily.
And what do you remember about it in terms of your role or what? you
I just
experienced?
remember that it was a multi-alarm fire. I remember being assigned to emergency 2 out of the Hill. And I also remember treating people as they were being pulled out. I remember, going to pull a mother and a child out. And, they were critical on scene.
So what did you do for them?
Oh, well, we stabilize them the best we can, assess for injuries, assess for trauma, make sure their airway, is taken care of, because we were always taught the ABCs.
ABC is airway.
Airway, breathing, circulation.
So you make sure the blood's flowing and their breath is going in and out.
Exactly.
And then they go to the hospital.
Right. Immediately.
Okay. What happened to that mother and child?
I don't know. That's the thing. We don't get to find out the outcomes of most of the people that we help.
Do you think that helps or hurts for a firefighter to do a job?
I think it probably hurts, because when you poured your heart and soul into helping someone and you've given it your all, you kind of want to know how it ended.
And there's not a way to find out, or do you have to take steps that are kind of
I think we have to take steps, and HIPAA is so stringent, these
meaning
days.
the rules about privacy and medical care?
Exactly.
Erika, do you know of specific cases where you did save someone's life that you'll never forget?
There's so many.
Okay.
So many. I don't think I could point out one specifically.
What's it like to know you've saved lives?
It's amazing.
We have a saying, Paku and Nefesh, and to save a life
It's amazing.
In Jewish tradition, sort of like the greatest thing you can do.
Yeah, it's amazing to know that, you're kind of, sitting around the firehouse waiting for something to happen. You get sent to a call, You assess what you have to do. You're on go mode. You have objectives, things that you have to get done, and you get them done, and it ends up really, affecting someone's life for the better.
How about storms? We get the fire department is the first responder when there are major storms. We have more major storms than we used to. Early in your career, we have, if you'll agree with me, one or two major storms,
Yes.
maybe every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
We're now every year or two. Once the Sandy season started, some could say climate change. I know that in the from 2010 to 2020, we had something like 5 major storms that were the same as what used to be one every decade. What did that mean for you? Can you think of a storm? Did it change the way you did your job? Is there any particular storm that sticks out in your mind?
I don't remember if it was Hurricane Irene or Hurricane Sandy, but it was the first one. A bunch of us were hired. I think maybe 40 of us were hired extra for coverage in the Cove because, as we all know, that area is notorious for flooding because it's, right on the water. And we were there probably more than 24 hours.
Is that like 2011?
Yeah, somewhere.
And was that when the high tide, they were watching,
Yes.
and we were getting the alerts that around noon and around midnight
Yes.
was when the tide was coming in. They're
Yes.
worried it would, I remember Melissa Bailey from The Independent was hanging out there with you guys one of those
Yeah,
nights.
yeah, it was wild. So there were so many of us that were not in firehouses that were assigned, and they housed us at Nathan Hale School on Townsend.
Yep, I'm thinking of the same one.
Yeah, and we spent the entire day in full gear. Like
So you had this heavy
the
stuff
coat,
on.
yeah, our helmets, for falling trees and, what have you. And we knocked on every single door in Morris Cove all day long. So
Make sure people are okay.
yeah, hi, we need you to evacuate. You just need to know that, if you have some sort of emergency, our response times are going to be extended because of the storm. And it was amazing how many people were just like, yeah, no, we're going to stay and tough it out. And I'm like, wow.
That is definitely the Cove. That
Oh,
happened
yeah.
most recently.
Yeah.
And in the end, am I right that the way I remember it is that everything was about timing. You never knew when the storm was going to move, the eye of the storm. And,
Yeah.
and the key moment was that midnight when you were all at Nathan Hale and high tide was coming and the storm moved just before that so that you ended up not having the major flooding.
Yeah, it was amazing. We had the National Guard with us. They drove us around, during the worst parts of the storm. There were, we had, cots set up and, food was brought in. It was an entire production.
But you felt like something important. Didn't you feel like didn't you have a purpose? You were part of something that
Oh,
mattered?
absolutely.
We're talking about that with Erika Bogan. New Haven firefighter just ended a successful and long career on WNHH-FM, broadcast 103.5 FM from New Haven, Connecticut, 103, and also live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. There, we just did our FCC duty. And we got a few more minutes here with Erika Bogan. What about what it was like to be black and female in that department as times changed? You had the landmark Supreme Court case by white officers, except for one was Latino, against promotions that sometimes would try to make sure there were people of color who were promoted. This was the Ricci versus the Stefano case. It went to the Supreme Court, and it changed the way American government was allowed to hire and promote people.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember from that period? What was it like to be a fighter at that time?
It was tough. It was really tough because people were so divided, and I suppose understandably so. But being a black female on the job is never without its challenges. You have people, not necessarily coworkers per se, but the public perception of, females on the job is generally not good.
Is the idea they're not going to be able to help as much as the guy?
Exactly. But women on the job have such a vital role. They really, really do. When you have a child who needs comforting, women have that, that special touch, so to speak. They have that nurturing quality that could, draw the child to you so we can achieve the desired result. Whether it's, I need to bandage something, I need to take a blood pressure, I need to listen to the child's lungs. I know how to, tweak it and finesse it to get the child, like, okay, this is okay.
And then what happened with the tensions during Ricci? Did it ever play out in the firehouse at a fire? What was it like to come to work and people knew the whole nation was watching you about whether rules would change to help minorities advance?
Yeah, it was tense. I chose to keep my views and opinions to myself. Because for me, the workplace isn't the place to, to argue and fight and, be at odds with one another, because at the end of everything, once the bell hits and you have to go out, it doesn't matter what your differences are. It doesn't matter if you don't like, Bill or Tom or Dan or Dave. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that, you're sent on a call, you have an objective, and, how are we going to mitigate this, as safely and quickly as possible.
Do you remember any incidents where anything said or written or notes left or?
No. Thankfully, I wasn't in the fray, of all of that.
So what was amazing to me was the story Maya McFadden did with you recently, where it was about 2 months ago, was it? Where you had the entire, for Juneteenth, you folks printed up Black Lives Matter t-shirts, and the entire fire department wore them.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking, wait, what did I miss? Like, sort of like you had Richie, and I think it was 2009, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, in 2022, the entire fire department is happily wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirts on the job and posing for pictures together. What was that all about?
I just want to, I'm just so, when I think about where I started on this job and, the social climate on the job in New Haven was to where it is now, I have to say I am like so incredibly proud of my coworkers. I really, really am. I think that at some point people have to realize, or maybe they did realize, that we're stronger together, than divided.
But I mean, how did you watch it happen? Like in 29, you would not have had people wearing those t-shirts.
No, probably not.
So what happened when
Probably
they made
not.
it a different kind of department? It's just America's changing on the ground, despite what you hear on TV?
I suppose so. I think that things started to really change when the hiring changed, and when organizations like the Firebirds really fought for our ranks to be more reflective of the city that we serve.
Firebirds Association of Black Firefighters. Gary Tinney's running for a long time. Were you
Yes.
active in that?
Yes.
And was Party Mission recruiting people to apply and then help them also be able to do well on tests?
Yes. But also to create an atmosphere of fairness and just to level the playing field so that everyone had an opportunity.
And so the department has diversified.
Yes. It's amazing, the diversity that they have now.
My favorite thing you folks have done, besides all, like, you do a lot of charity work. You do a lot on holidays. You bring food to people and you have gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
You also have a program started at Hill House High School, your alma mater, where you get people started on career tracks to go into public safety, correct? So that when they're done with high school, they got to start on getting the credentials they need.
I did participate with Bill Garrity. He and Gary Tinney worked together to create an academy in in public school at Hill House, so that kids that were interested could, take EMT classes and then, graduate, as actual EMTs. So I did, some community work with him. My favorite, people always ask me very, very often what my favorite part of the job is.
Yeah, what was the favorite part?
Two things: delivering babies.
Oh, right.
Absolutely. That's the absolute best part of my job. Only second to all of the community service. So all of the career days, all of the community events. I didn't have anybody like me back in the 90s telling me that I could do this job.
Mm-hmm.
So, for, little kids everywhere, I don't care what color you are. If I can positively influence them, or if I could have positively influenced them, so they, really looked at me and really grasped, what I wish I had grasped when I was 18, like, wow, if she does it, I can really do this job. So if I can influence one child to, go after, what I went after all those years ago, then my job is done and I'm happy.
What are your next steps, Erika? Are you going to be doing any of that? What are you going to do next with your life now that you're not going to be 3 days on, 3 days off, afternoon, overnight, running out the fires?
I would love to continue, community service. That's never been a question, because I feel like unto whom much is given, much is required. This job has given me so much, so much knowledge, so much experience, whether good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. You just take it all. I've made so many great friendships, so many great, work, relationships, and, you have to give back. You cannot, I don't understand how you could be in this, career and not want to give back, beyond, your shifts.
How many babies did you deliver?
7.
7?
Mm-hmm.
Any one story stick out?
Yes.
Tell me.
There was one in the Hill. I was with Phil Gonzalez, Doug Wardlaw, and Captain Tom Hines, and we got a call for a maternity, and it was on a street directly behind the firehouse.
So it's Robert Square.
Like Edgar Street.
Mm-hmm.
So, we jump in the engine and, we go around the corner. And of course, my coworker's like, okay, E, go ahead. Go check it out. Like, all right, no problem. So we walk into this bedroom and there's a young lady and I don't know if I could say this or should say this, but she literally has no clothes on. And I'm like, okay, guys, just hold on. Just give us some privacy and let me, figure out what's going on. So I'm asking her questions and I'm like, okay, well, let me check you for crowning. And
that means the top of the baby's head is coming out.
Exactly. So, she lets me check and the baby's head is literally right there.
Oh my goodness. Like the whole head?
Not the whole head, but maybe about this much.
Oh my goodness.
And I can see hair. And I'm like, okay, because you have to assess whether you're going to rapidly transport or whether you're going to have the baby right there. So I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to have this baby right here. So, I just had them, pass me what I needed.
What'd you need?
I needed the OB kit. Every piece of apparatus in the city has an obstetrics kit, and it has everything that you need to deliver a baby. So, the syringe to syringe out the baby's nose and mouth. It has a scalpel to cut the umbilical cord. It has ties to tie the umbilical cord. It has a plastic bag for the afterbirth for pathology, and like a makeshift blanket.
So what happened?
So we had the baby right there. She pitched, I catched. We wrapped the baby up.
Did you coach her like push?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because when you put your hand on a pregnant woman's stomach, you can feel the contractions. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, when we feel this next contraction, I want you to bear down and I want you to push. And that's exactly what she did.
And you got the baby out safely.
Oh yeah.
What did that feel like when you had the baby in the arms? Did you have the baby in the arms?
Yes, absolutely joyful. Because there's always those moments when you're like, okay, we're in the field. If something goes wrong, then what? That kind of thing. But, as soon as I heard the baby cry, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like so excited. But the next day, I get a phone call at work from a doctor at Yale. And, it's like, Erika, business phone. And I'm like, firefighter Bogan. And they're like, oh, hi, this is Dr. So-and-so at Yale. And immediately the hairs on the back of my neck stood up because I'm like, oh my God, did something happen with this baby? What's going on? And they were like, oh no, we just needed the correct spelling of your name because, you're going on the baby's birth certificate as the attending physician. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
And
it was so good.
You were a doctor after all. Remember, you were thinking
so
that growing up.
Yeah.
You were an attending physician.
In a roundabout way, I did. And we ended up taking up a collection amongst the firehouse and we got her and the baby like a baby gift basket. So that was good too.
Do you know the kid to this day?
I don't, but at this point, she's a teenager.
Okay, so when was this? Like around 2000 or?
Yeah. Like okay. 2004, 5, 6.
Well, Erika
Maybe
Bogan,
2006.
What a treat to chat with you. Congratulations on a great quarter-century public safety career. I look forward to seeing what you can do next. I know you're always in the public eye because you're always doing that service work.
Absolutely.
We all know who Erika is. So. Thanks for coming on Dateline New Haven. I wish you luck in your next adventure.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening today, folks. Thanks to Harry Drost behind the controls, the best station manager in the business. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.